The first time I realized my daughter's life had a price tag, it wasn't written on a hospital bill. It was stitched into ivory silk and crystal beads. I remember standing in the hospital hallway, the smell of antiseptic clinging to my throat, my phone pressed so hard to my ear that my fingers went numb. On the other end was my mother-in-law's voice, calm and distant, like she was discussing weather instead of blood counts. "We can't help right now, Mara," she said. "You know your brother-in-law's wedding is in 2 weeks. Everything is already paid for." Paid for. My daughter Lena lay 10 steps behind me in a pediatric ICU bed, her tiny chest rising and falling with the help of a machine. She was 7 years old. She liked drawing suns with faces and believed hospitals were just places where doctors gave out stickers. And my in-laws were spending $250,000 on a wedding. The hallway lights flickered. I leaned my forehead against the cold wall, trying not to scream. "She needs the surgery," I whispered. "They said if we wait, she might not make it." There was a pause. I imagined my mother-in-law glancing at a seating chart, worrying about linen colors. "Mara, we've already stretched ourselves thin. This wedding is important for the family's reputation." Reputation. I hung up before my voice could betray how close I was to breaking. My reflection in the glass window looked unfamiliar. Sunken eyes, hair pulled back in a rushed knot, a woman holding herself together with sheer will. This wasn't how my life was supposed to look. I used to believe love was enough. I married Daniel thinking loyalty and shared dreams could outlast anything. He came from money. Old money, careful money. And I came from a house where bills were paid late but laughter came easy. First, his parents tolerated me. Then Lena was born, and for a brief, fragile moment, I thought we'd become a real family. That illusion shattered the day the doctor said the word leukemia. Everything after that blurred into a nightmare of white rooms, test results, and fear that crawled into my bones and refused to leave. Daniel tried at first. He came to appointments, held Lena's hand, promised me we'd get through it. But people reveal who they are when pressure squeezes hard enough. When the medical bills started stacking up, Daniel grew distant. He talked more about his brother's upcoming wedding than Lena's next treatment. He said things like, "My parents will help, eventually." Eventually came too late. Begged them. I swallowed my pride and went to their marble-floored living room, Lena's medical folder trembling in my hands. I explained every test, every prognosis, every deadline. My father-in-law listened with a polite smile. "I'm sure God will take care of it," he said. They had already booked a destination venue. Imported flowers. A designer dress flown in from Paris. Gold-embossed invitations. And when I asked for help, real help, money that could save my child, they said no. "We can't ruin your brother-in-law's big day," my mother-in-law said gently. People would talk. That night, I sat alone in the hospital bathroom and sobbed into a paper towel, my body shaking so hard I thought I might collapse. I felt betrayed not just by them, but by the life I'd built around the assumption that family meant something. Daniel didn't defend me. He avoided my eyes when I told him his parents refused. "They've already spent so much," he said weakly. "Maybe we can take out another loan." Another loan. Another debt. Another delay. I worked 2 jobs already. Daytime accounting, nighttime food delivery. I slept in chairs and lived on vending machine coffee. Still, it wasn't enough. Then, one night, after Lena fell asleep clutching my finger, a nurse pulled me aside. "There's an experimental program," she said quietly. "But it's selective. And expensive." "How expensive?" I asked, already knowing the answer would hurt. She told me the number. My knees almost gave out. That night I went home and opened my laptop. I created a fundraiser, wrote Lena's story with shaking hands, and pressed publish. I shared it everywhere. Friends donated. Strangers donated. But the number barely crawled upward, mocking me. $250,000 for a wedding. And my daughter's life was apparently worth less. The day of the wedding rehearsal, Daniel didn't come to the hospital. He said he had responsibilities. I watched social media stories of champagne glasses clinking while I held my child as she vomited from chemo. Something hardened inside me then. Quiet, dangerous clarity. They had chosen their priorities. And so would I. Late that night, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. The message was short, unsettling. "I hear you're desperate. I might have a solution. Call me." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Not with hope, but with a strange, cold sense that my life was about to change in ways I couldn't undo. And I didn't know yet that this call would make me the last person they'd ever expect to need. I didn't call the number right away. I watched Lena sleep, the machines humming softly beside her, and wondered how far a mother could go before she crossed a line she could never step back over. At 3:17 a.m., when fear outweighed caution, I pressed dial. The voice on the other end was male, calm, almost bored. "You took your time," he said. "Who are you?" I asked. "Someone who knows your in-laws," he replied. "And someone who knows they're sitting on assets they don't like to talk about." My stomach tightened. He explained in fragments. Offshore investments, tax shelters, quiet scandals buried under donations and smiles. Nothing illegal enough to put them in jail. Just enough to ruin them socially. "What do you want?" I whispered. "For now, nothing," he said. "I just thought you should know you're not powerless." The call ended before I could ask more. I should have been afraid. Instead, for the first time in months, I felt something dangerously close to control. Over the next week, Lena's condition worsened. The doctors spoke in careful tones. Daniel stopped staying overnight. He said the hospital made him anxious. I confronted my in-laws one last time, standing in their foyer while wedding planners rushed past me with fabric samples. "She's running out of time," I said. "If you won't help her, don't call yourselves her grandparents." My mother-in-law's face hardened. "Don't manipulate us, Mara." That was the moment something inside me snapped clean in half. I left Daniel 2 days later. I packed a bag, moved into the hospital's family housing, and filed separation papers from my phone while Lena slept. He didn't fight me. That hurt more than if he had. Then the man called again. "I can help you leverage them," he said. "But once you start, there's no going back." I thought of silk dresses, 4 tubes, of a family that chose appearances over blood. "Tell me how," I said. What followed felt surreal. I didn't threaten. I didn't scream. I simply let information slip, at the right time to the right people. Rumor here. A document there. Nothing false. Just truths they'd paid dearly to keep quiet. Within days the tone changed. My phone rang. My mother-in-law's voice trembled. "Mara, let's talk. We may have reconsidered." They offered to cover the surgery. Quietly. No apologies. No acknowledgement of what they'd done. I almost laughed. "I don't want your charity," I said. "I want transparency." They agreed to the money. The surgery was scheduled. Lena smiled when I told her the doctors were going to fix the bad cells. But the real shock came the night before the wedding. My father-in-law came to the hospital alone. He looked older somehow. "Muller, you've put us in an impossible position," he said. "No," I replied. "You put yourselves there." He leaned closer. "Do you know what happens if this gets out?" "Yes," I said softly. "And I know what happens if my daughter dies." For the first time he had no answer. Lena went into surgery at dawn. As they wheeled her away, I held her hand and whispered promises I wasn't sure I could keep. Hours passed like years. When the surgeon finally came out, his face unreadable, my heart stopped. "The procedure was successful," he said. I collapsed into a chair, sobbing with relief. But even as gratitude flooded me, I knew this wasn't over. The wedding went on. The photos were perfect, the smiles rehearsed. And my in-laws thought they'd paid their way out. They had no idea I'd just begun to understand my own strength. Recovery was slow. Lena lost her hair, her energy, her patience, but she kept her light. Every laugh felt like a victory I'd fought a war to earn. Daniel tried to come back. "I made mistakes," he said, standing in the hospital hallway where everything had first fallen apart. We can still be a family. I looked at him and felt nothing. We already are, I said. Just not with you. I finalized the divorce quietly. No drama. No revenge. He faded out of our lives like someone turning down a dimmer switch. And then the world turned. The man who had helped me leverage my in-laws disappeared. Along with him went some very important digital files. Files tied to the same investments my in-laws had begged me not to expose. A week later, federal investigators came knocking. The scandal exploded. Charities cut ties. Business partners vanished. The same society that toasted them at a $250,000 wedding now whispered their names with contempt. And suddenly they needed me. I was the only one who knew where certain documents were stored. The only one who could explain certain transactions. The only one who could help them negotiate. They came to me not as benefactors, but as desperate people. "We'll do anything," my mother-in-law said, tears streaking her makeup. "Please." Thought of Lena. Of the bathroom floor. Of silk versus survival. "I already got what I needed," I said. I helped them just enough to avoid prison. Not out of kindness, but because Lena deserved a future unshadowed by endless court battles. When it was over, I walked away clean. Years later, Lena runs through the park, her laughter ringing out like music. She doesn't remember the wedding, or the betrayal, or the price put on her life. But I no longer carry it like a wound. Carry it like proof. Proof that I became something I didn't know I could be. Their only hope, when my daughter was the only thing that mattered.